Hey, everybody, this is Steve Van Diest. I'm the co host of the Sharpen Podcast. It's brought to you by Acumen. Acumen is a peer advisory group for business owners, CEOs, key execs up and down the Front Range here in Colorado, as well as in Kansas City and in Phoenix. We're here to grow your top line. Yeah, we want to make more money. We want to do better at what we do, optimize our bottom line. Let's be more efficient, wise, good stewards. But I think sometimes the most important is let's enrich our storyline. What's your family story, your faith story, your journey of becoming a business owner and all those struggles? Today, we're going to talk about this fine young man sitting in this fancy boardroom here. We're going to talk about people. So if you're a business owner out there, a CEO, you have probably had an issue or complete joy with people. Dan, tell us why you're an expert about this. You are part of the Acumen team, the Summit team out here in Colorado, and I've gotten the joy of getting to know you this last year. Tell us why this is, well, first of all, tell us what you do. What the heck are you?
Yeah, that's easier. I'm a commercial litigator. I've been running my own firm since 2009. So it's been a while, and law firms are people businesses. So that's what I do. I deal with people both on the internal side, but also on the outward facing side, client service.
Yeah, and so I've said this to you before. You're kind of a unicorn in the business world because law firms typically are run by lawyers and they are really good at what they do. They're good at their practice, whatever law it is. Yet you have this passion to go, but I'm also about people building a business. So, yes, I could just put myself in a corner cubicle and I could crank out legal work and help customers and clients. But tell us what you founded the firm
Yes.
and what's the evolution of some of the people lessons in that and how has it changed since 2009 there?
Man, that's a long podcast. I could just go for a half hour. How's that? Um, so I started on my own in 2009, and initially, lawyers are service providers. So I started working with contract attorneys, people that I knew who were competent and could help me with some of the projects that I had going. Then I started hiring people full time, partnered with a guy named Dave Chipman. I think we partnered in 2011, maybe 2012, something like that. And then started hiring additional lawyers and staff and, running a much more full scale operation. So I've learned a lot of lessons in that time frame. I've seen a lot of people come and a lot of people go. And yeah, I have some wins and I have some losses in it,
What's
which
been
I can cover.
Well, let's start with some of the scars because I think a great leader in a business in a law firm is made by their scars, but also in a home. The depth of us coming, it's the redemption piece of us coming out of these scars and brokenness. What were some of the biggest challenges along the way these last 16 years?
I think losing people was hard because very early in the firm, our purpose, as we defined our purpose, was to elevate people and to foster abundance. And so, on the elevating people component, I really felt like I wanted to invest and I wanted to see lawyers stay with the firm and thrive. And it was very hard for me to accept that for some of them, elevating them meant they needed to move on. And that was really hard for me because I wanted to see a longer term relationship there. That was very difficult. Um, Over time, I've seen many of those people flourish after being here. It is gratifying to see that, but in the moment, invested in someone, really hoping that they will stick with you and be a long term colleague, maybe a partner. When they leave, it's really hard.
Yeah, I can see that. So, like many business owners, we take the investment to go hunt down somebody either through relationships or recruiting firm, and we find them. We spend all this time and resources and money, build them up, and if they're a great person, yeah, they're becoming more efficient, more powerful, a greater leader. How'd you cope with that? How do you cope as a leader of a company? How do you one build it into the business model, but then two, how do you emotionally even cope with that as a leader?
So I'll answer the business modeling component of this second. I want to talk about the internal reaction that I've had to it. So my business leadership, especially early, was based on my own sort of glasses through which I saw the world, right? So I had a certain mindset, I had a certain emotional um, temperature gauge, if you will. The way that I sort of interacted with the world was the way that I expected other people to interact with the world. And I'll give you an example that was particularly hard for me. We had an employee many years ago who struggled with depression and substance abuse. And this person was amazingly talented. And I wasn't struggling with depression and I wasn't struggling with substance abuse. And so it was hard for me to relate to that. And I was frustrated. At the time, I didn't know, of course, that that's what was animating a lot of the behavior. But it was hard for me because I was seeing this employee through my own lens, right? I'm looking at some of the behavior, and my reaction to it was, what is your problem? Why can't you get your act together? And that experience really taught me that I need to get out of myself more, view people as really independent, right? God creates everybody uniquely. They have their own challenges, they have their own things that are going on in their life. And to the extent that I'm willing to be sympathetic, to put myself in their shoes, to try to meet them where they are, the more effective I think I am as a leader when I'm willing to do that, rather than simply judging them from my own lived experience or the lens through which I see the world.
I can imagine it's easier to say that. Oh, yeah, this is part of my faith values. This is part of my core who I am. But then in a winning legal culture where our job is to help clients win, how do you balance that? Yes, you live and work in the world in a big city. You represent companies. They're hiring you to win, to represent them, defend them on mergers, on breakups, on issues and contracts. Yet you've got this deep-rooted faith value. How do you juxtapose those two things and handle those on a Thursday at 3 o'clock and I'm walking into a client or I've got a lawyer that's struggling with something? In a practical sense, how do you then deal with that? That's a huge lesson. But then when it shows up again, what's the mode of operation?
Um, so I think that our spiritual life is something that really should manifest in interior transformation. Love of God, love of neighbor, right? Like those things should be growing within us as we live out our faith. If those things are not happening, I think there's something wrong with us. Um, or we're not really following what Christ taught. We're not modeling our life after his. So I really believe that when we focus on our own interior life, right, our own manifestation of the virtues, our own spiritual disciplines, our own practice of confession of our own sins and working through those things that are problems within our own spiritual life, then the ripple effect into our family and into our workplace is palpable. So I'm really a long way from perfect. So I don't feel like I'm a great person to like lecture on how to be a great leader because I don't think I've always done a great job of that. But I do believe that when I invest the time to be in the presence of Christ, to seek to conform my life to his, I'm a better listener. I'm more sensitive to people because my nearest neighbors are, my wife, my kids, the people that work next door to me, in the office right next door. So I think that that's the call that all of us who are Christ followers have, right? To be conformed to his image. And through that conformance, hopefully we have an opportunity to bring salt and light into the spaces we've had at home, work, and everywhere else. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
so yeah, it does. And so a couple of years ago, you started really a transformation in your faith journey and trying and living out these things that you're saying. So values changed in the company. How was that shift? Because one of your former partners moved away, And then it was now, hey, I have this opportunity. How did you shift that value, communicate it to your current staff? Because I would assume not all your staff are Christians and they're trying to figure out life as well. How did you lead a company that works in the normal world that shift?
Um, One was being less ashamed of where I'm at with my own spiritual life, right? So, particularly when I was partnered with Dave Chipman, who's now on a mission and away from the country, we weren't totally spiritually aligned. So I felt some reticence to be public about my own faith and where I put priorities. I was always comfortable saying things out loud, like our purpose is to elevate people, because that's a secular kind of neutral objective, right? But that's really based on the promise of Christ that he came to give us abundance and to give us that life and thing that animates us, our spirit. And I felt like I could never be overt about that. I could be covert. I could say things that were true to what I believed deep down, but it couldn't be overt. And it was very difficult for me to reach that place where I just decided, come what may, even if the people on my team don't share that belief, I need to be clear about who I am, what I believe, and what's animating the way that I'm going to conduct myself in the practice, in the business, and let the chips fall where they may. And some people didn't love it when I did that. So I rolled out a statement of faith for the firm. And that statement of faith is not everyone who works here has to believe the way that I do. That statement of faith is this is what I believe. This is how I intend to manage the firm. All are welcome here. You can believe whatever you want. We're never going to impose upon you any particular worldview. But for me, that was kind of a watershed, just being public about my own belief and being really clear that I'm going to live out my faith and I'm going to run the firm in a way that I think is honoring to Christ and advances the kingdom. And we're going to support those causes. And I'm going to be overt about that. You don't have to love it. But that's the way I'm operating.
How has that affected? Because it's also you're in the people business, so which means we're in the business services, we're still selling. Has that gotten to influence even you? Because yes, you're one of the sellers. You have other lawyers that work for you. They're selling as well or bringing on clients. Have you seen that shift a little bit as well in the outward facing part, not just the company culture?
Um, I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. My hope has always been in the same way, if you compared your customer experience at Chick-fil-A versus, say, Burger King, those really are different customer experiences. Some of it's, the way that they respond to Chick-fil-A, it's different than Burger King because that's pre-programmed. But my hope has always been that the clients we work with would have a sense that there's something different about us, not necessarily explicit, um, but an implicit, like our heart is to serve and our heart is to care about the people that we have a chance to serve and to genuinely care about them. And I want that to be the culture across the board within the firm. But do I have feedback from clients saying, yes, we definitely feel that? Not necessarily. And we're not overtly marketing
Mhm.
that. We're not saying, hey, we're a Christian law firm because that's not the message that we want to convey. I want to convey that more in the service, right? In that humility, that heart for the people that we have a privilege to serve, just in the attitude and the way we carry out the work.
Kind of fun that you went a little bit there because as many faith owners are, it's am I a Christian artist am I an artist that happens to be a Christian? Am I a Christian law firm or am I a law firm that has Christian values that follow me? And so I think it's oftentimes, sometimes in the Christian world, there's this pressure to say, companies, put your fish and put your message and your verse on your cup and make sure your pens and make sure Dan then prays in front of the courtroom. But there's a really healthy balance of going, I am producing a phenomenal product. And in of itself, just doing that, serving my client with the greatest services in our company is kingdom. It's God honoring. It's people honoring. So I'm glad because I think some business owners feel that sometimes, maybe from some outward people that aren't running businesses. And it's like, well, you're a Christian. Why shouldn't they've never run a business before? They've never one, maybe been a lawyer. Although I have watched Suits and LA Law, so I do know a lot about as I've gotten to coach you, and I'm really good. And I was a mattress salesman, so there's a lot of similarities between mattress salesmen and lawyers, and so we have a lot going on with each other. But I always felt that pressure as well. People are like, "Well, are you sharing the gospel with your customers?" I know I go, not necessarily, but I had an older gentleman that had wrote a book about faith and work talked to me one time ago, if you just get people sleeping well, you're healing them. That is kingdom. And if Dan can enter into a space, because when you're entering a space with clients, what is that space?
Well, it's really unique actually because there's so much trust, right? We're typically litigating business issues which involve a significant amount of money and risk, and clients are really looking to us for guidance. We're counselors, and so it's a unique space where my hope is to win people's trust as their counselor. But I think this is a really important point, Steve, about the way that we market and what our goal is. I grew up in kind of the evangelism explosion era when there was a big push to kind of confront people. And I'm not saying that this question is inherently wrong, but to walk up to strangers on the sidewalk and say, if you died today, do you know where you would be for eternity? It's off-putting often to people, and it doesn't necessarily win their heart in a relational way. And so I think as a business owner, this is just my perspective, but if I have the chance to win someone's trust and their friendship, I have a far better chance of being a witness to the gospel, to the good news, to the truth in that relationship of trust than I would if I just went around hitting people over the head with, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And again, that's not the wrong message. It's not that that's untrue, but we're not going to win people if we don't attract bees with honey. And I think relationships are the key to attracting those bees with honey. And I don't want to be off-putting. And often I find that overt kind of marketing, like we're a Christian company, where it's super overt and sticky and in your face. It's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah,
And
so yeah, I think you're exactly right.
I've been around Christians my whole life, right? My dad was a pastor, so I've been around a lot of these people. And those people that are annoying and they don't actually care. They're just trying to get check marks on their scorecard for, number of people who pray the sinner's prayer. I don't think that's a good approach. I think winning friendships and relationships is far, far, far more important.
And because you're entering in a place that's got a lot of money and trauma usually built around it, entering that space with wisdom and shrewdness and having one, are you a good lawyer? They really, really want, can you actually represent me well and keep me out of jail or not let me lose everything because of a couple things that we've done? Um, Now, in the people world, what have you, and we'll kind of end on this one, where have you seen, okay, I've been thinking about people, I've been doing people, where have you seen some great wins recently in the people concept, the culture concept in your business, your leadership?
So many of those historical events that were painful for me, um, I've seen bear fruit, and that's super gratifying, and that's a huge win. So I would encourage business owners who set out to like name an objective, right? Like our purpose is to elevate people and foster abundance. Name that, pursue it, articulate your core values, go after it, because it may not bear fruit in the next 6 months or the next year or the next 5 years or even 10 years. Fruit in the way that you're expecting that fruit to grow, right? I think a lot of us who run our own companies do feel a sense of calling and purpose, and we want to create a work environment where people experience joy and they can earn a living and they have all these fruits, right, that should come from work because we were created to work. So we want that. And I feel like I poured into some people and then they left. They went and started their own firms and they did this or that. The first guy that we brought into the firm, I had lunch with him last month. Just a wonderful conversation. He sent me his daughter's graduation announcement. It was on my kitchen counter last night. And so I feel this friendship, I feel this joy in seeing him succeed. So not necessarily within my organization, but that little season of discipleship, friendship making, relationship building. At the time, I was hurt that he left. I was hurt that he went to start his own firm. And that's happened with other people. The guy who had addiction issues really was struggling. We had to kind of find a different path for him. Very painful at the time. Now thriving, sober, really has transformed his own life. And so I want to see that roll out, right? I want to see those flowers bloom. I want to see that fruit grow. And that's really, really rewarding. And that's been, I mean, I can tell you more and more stories like that where these people who kind of come into my orbit and left have gone on to do things where I personally feel that I've had some role in elevating them and seeing abundance blossom.
Well, as a watcher of you and a big fan of you, and I get to spend time with you, I've seen that. It's not a let's get this done real quick, but there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of thinking. You're one of the brightest people I know. There's been some great transformation in your life. I see your faith lived out in your marriage and your kids. I'm seeing it lived out on the few employees that I know, the interaction that you have with them, the fact that you even trust and openness and humility amongst your COO and to say, this is who I am. Because oftentimes it's in this relationship with us together. How are you currently being sharpened, challenged, and inspired?
Well, as you were saying all that, I was thinking about the many butt kicking lessons that I've had. So I don't feel like I have a lot that's special other than many, many, many years of hard knocks and difficult lessons, most of which stem from my own inherent sinful nature. So pride is one of the seven deadly sins for a reason, because it's so toxic to everything that God is calling us to. And as a business owner, it's so easy to get wrapped up in that. Like these people that I'm talking about, right? I invest in them. I'm the one spending the time. I'm the one mentoring. It's me, 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 me. And so God has I think, a wonderful way of very gently teaching us these lessons of humility. Like, hey, it's not about you. Maybe it's about this other person who I brought into your care for this season, for my purposes, not yours. And so I've had to learn the hard way to let go of my ego and the sense of pride that I have, especially as it relates to people. And to just trust that, like, I'm going to keep doing what I'm called to do, right? I'm going to love people in the way that I best know how. I'm going to try to do what I think God is telling me to do, to serve people, to love them well, and then let the chips fall where they may. If they decide I'm a religious nut job and they don't care for my worldview, that's okay, right? And that happens.
Yeah.
That happens, and that's okay.
Well, good. I heard in there also. So at next Acumen CEO Council in a couple weeks, since you said your greatest lessons are being humbled, then we can put you on the hot seat and let everybody else humble you and poke holes in you. That's the power. It's like you've showed up saying, "This is who I am. Here's my flaws and weaknesses." So you've been a great member, but you also come with a lot of experience and wisdom, and that's the power of having you on that summit team. There is interaction, and we do. It's fun for me as a facilitator of that team to watch the strengths of everybody, but then to see, because it's a safe place, some of the weakness also show up and how that rubs each other wrong. Because in that room, gosh, we have a variety of faith Christian streams. We have a variety of businesses that are so completely different. It is fun seeing kind of the rub, but also the encouragement and the love. And so I am glad that you're on there. How can we find information about Dan Chipman Glasser?
Chipmanglasser.com. Check out the Acumen podcast. It's
Yeah.
going to so
Yeah, you'll be on it. So chipmanglasser.com, find you on LinkedIn. And then if you are a business that's going, wait, I'm going through this is my pitch for you. My business is going through some trauma. Reach out to these guys. Their staff will take care of you, represent you well. I appreciate you. I heard a couple things. There is this piece of losing people, but if I begin to see the world through their lens, not just because in a lawyer world, it's get your work done, put your head down, win, 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 work hard, do it excellent. But I saw an evolution of Dan saying, I'm starting to learn from seeing the world through their lens. My internal life and my external life should reflect each other. And
Mhm.
so my spiritual journey should come out, even though I don't have a overtly faith organization, my inner is reflected on my outer. And then I love this last part, and it's your value statement. Elevate people and foster abundance. That is powerful. So thank you for being on the Sharpen podcast. I will see you shortly. And the rest of you, you can find us Acumen at acumenimpact.com. Look for community events, happy hours. If you're a CEO, just like Dan was about a year ago, going, hey, I want to find a team that's going to help foster my business and my leadership and who I am as a person, and you're operating alone, which is a lot of CEOs and business owners up here in Colorado and across the nation, reach out to us. We've got executive coaching, we've got peer teams for you, and we look forward to meeting you. Thank you all.